Waiver wire madness. Here we go on FFT Express. What's up, everybody? All right, early look at the waiver wire, Monday, October 20th. Obviously, we will break it down in depth. Dave, I believe, is going to talk about Aronde Gadsden. I have a hunch he's going to talk about Aronde Gadsden tomorrow, and deservedly so. But Jamey, who's your headliner for the early waiver wire?
Aronde Gadsden. I mean, it's a pretty bad week of options in most redraft leagues, one quarterback redraft leagues, because of thankfully the lack of injuries. But even with the replacement options of the guys that have stepped up, there's no real like, oh my God, this is a plug and play starter. Maybe you can make the case for Joe Flacco just based on what he's done the last 2 weeks and his matchup against the Jets. If you need a quarterback, remember there are 6 teams on a bye. But at running back, thankfully the biggest injury, and I say this, because it's not a big name player, but it's Kendre Miller, suffered a torn ACL, so he's going to be the one that's missing. And as we know, not a must start, player at this point. So, in the case of the wide receivers, there's the continuing theme of maybe this guy can help you as a plug and play type of option. But really, the tight end position is where you could find a starter, and that's with the Aronde Gadsden.
Yeah, 6 teams on bye, obviously, so that's huge. And Gadsden, we were just talking about him kind of in depth on Beyond the Box Score, and I said, I don't really think I'm going to make – I haven't looked at all my teams, obviously. In my mind, I don't know that I'm going to be putting in any claims for him. And with that said, I do think he deserves to be one of the top waiver wire guys. But I don't know. I'm not going to drop – I don't think I'm going to drop Kyle Pitts for him. I don't think I'm going to drop Dallas Goedert for him. Just kind of seems like a lot of lateral moves, So I'll probably stand pat at tight end. As I don't know that I don't think he's going to be consistent, unfortunately.
So, not to belabor the point, because I'm sure we're going to talk about this again, but I think when you look at the tight end position, you start to put these guys in categories. And we just got, while we're recording this, Darren Waller is going to miss some time with the chest injury. So there's one replacement option that Aronde Gadsden can help for. But, when you're talking about the teams that are on a bye this week, and that's factoring in, we don't know if Dalton Kincaid is going to return after dealing with the oblique injury last week. You're down Sam Laporta. You're down Trey McBride. You're down, I guess those would be the top 2 guys in terms of tight ends that are missing. So replacing Waller, replacing Laporta, replacing McBride, still trying to replace Bowers, who's on a bye. I'm sorry, Bowers on a bye, excuse me.
Yeah.
Still trying to replace Bowers on a bye. So there's a lot of, star power at that position that's missing right now. And then when you go to, 6 teams are on a bye, plus all the other injuries that we're dealing with, guys are going to be a flex.
I get it. Yeah.
There's some appeal there. But yes, he's the best one to add this week for sure.
Well, he plays on Thursday, so you can see if your team's going to get off to a good start. All right, how about the quarterbacks? So we've got Arizona, Detroit, Jacksonville, Las Vegas, the Rams, the Seahawks. Could be worse, I suppose, from a quarterback perspective, but some good ones certainly on bye next week. Who should we be adding?
I'm going to go Joe Flacco first. Over 22 fantasy points in the first 2 starts with the Bengals, gets the Jets this week. He's averaging 46 pass attempts in the 2 starts with Cincinnati, which we love. And so given how this team's going to operate, it's not just a short-term thing, it's a long-term thing, because he's going to be their guy until Joe Burrow does come back, if that happens. And so to me right now, I know no mobility, and, there's going to be some pitfalls at some point because it's still a bad offensive line. And clearly the team was struggling before they beat the Steelers, but just based on what he's able to do, the receiving core that he has, how these games will most likely go, we're probably looking at 40 plus pass attempts on a regular. We're looking at 2 of the best receivers, or one of the best receiver duos in the NFL. Like, you want to have him if you need him. And I think a lot of people will want to have him and need him.
Okay. So when you remember the Geico commercial? When you have, or Affleck, when you have them, that's when you need them. Or when you don't, whatever. The Yogi Bear. Yeah, there's Michael Penix. I assume is going to be on the list as well. He's facing the Dolphins.
So the list I have in order right now is Flacco 1, Mariota 2, because we don't know the extent of Jane Daniels with the injury. Penix to me is a 1-week situation. So if you need somebody for this week, I probably would lean Penix over Mariota, unless we get to the weekend and we find out that both Debo and McLaurin are back, because then we have a potential shootout between the Commanders and the Chiefs. So I would go Mariota over Penix, but heading into Sunday, I'd go Penix over Mariota for 1 week. JJ McCarthy, hopefully will be back soon. I don't think that they'll play him Thursday because short week, and probably still lean on Wentz. But then you have that, mini bye, and there's a chance for McCarthy to get back. And hopefully, look, we saw one great fantasy game in week 1. We saw one bad game where he got hurt, and I think that's where Heath has brought this up. Like maybe we got to give the Falcons credit because that was the game that he struggled against, and their pass defense has proven to be really good. Tyrod Taylor, maybe the starter for the Jets. Aaron Glenn wouldn't commit to Justin Fields going into week 8. They get the Bengals, so it could be good for super flex leagues for sure. And then we now know that Bryce Young is going to miss at least 1 week, maybe more, with a high ankle sprain. So Andy Dalton for super flex and 2 quarterback leagues as well.
Yeah, actually, Dave Canales I just saw he did not rule out Bryce Young, but reportedly he's probably going to miss at least 1 game. And Garrett Wilson, by the way, might play this week. They haven't ruled him out, so that would be great for Tyrod Taylor against the Bengals. All right, let's take a break. Was that
Orfield?
Orfield, yeah. Let's take a break and talk about the running backs, wide receivers, tight ends when we come back. Okay. Any running backs? Any running backs to pick up?
So you want to take a look. I'll start with the shallow leagues. Tyler Algier coming off a bad game, but 10.3 PPR points or more in 3 of his last 4. Gets the Dolphins this week. Could be a flex in that matchup. I still will want to roster Kenneth Gainwell. And this is really for very, very shallow leagues. Aaron Jones is eligible to return this week. He's 84% rostered. Pick him up if he's not stashed somewhere, just in case he starts to get a bigger role. But really, this is a tough position at this point. So there's 2 players that you want to keep an eye on from an injury perspective. They are not on the injury report right now. They got hurt in week 7 and returned, and that's Breece Hall and Kareem Hunt. So Breece Hall would be the big one, and not only from an injury standpoint for Isaiah Davis. The trade deadline is November 4th. Right now, Breece Hall sounds as miserable as he's ever been. Obviously, the Jets are struggling right now, so if they can get assets, I'm sure that they would do it. So Isaiah Davis is someone that should be rostered. He's 15%. He's 50% roster right now, and they get the Bengals this week, so he may get some opportunity as well. Deep league flex option. And then the other one's Brashard Smith. And so, yes, it was a blowout win for the Raiders. Yes, Kareem Hunt hurt his ankle again, did return. But if you haven't been paying attention, he's got at least 5.1 PPR points in 4 games in a row. At least 5.1 PPR points in 4 games in a row. So deep league option could, help you. If he starts to get more work, could obviously be a benefit to him. And I think if Hunt were to miss any time, then he has certainly some flex appeal in tandem with Isaiah Pacheco. So those would be 2 guys to look at. The number 1 running back for me to add, though, is Kyle Monangai. Coming off the game that he just had, maybe he starts to get more work. And if you look at his schedule for the next 2 games, you want to talk about flex options in deeper leagues. Ravens this week, Bengals next week. Like, that's 31 and 32 in terms of most fantasy points allowed to opposing running backs, number 2 and number 1. So his playing time has ticked up each of the last 2 weeks. And, we just got the scare going into week 7, DeAndre Swift dealing with a groin injury. If Swift misses any time, Monangai is going to be a must-start running back. So I put him 1, I put Davis 2, I put Smith 3, and those would be the top 3 guys.
All right, wide receivers. Always some names here. Any wide receivers to add?
So they're, I'm not going to chase Xavier Legette, especially with Andy Dalton, and just his performance. I'm not going to chase, how do you say DK's the first name? I should know as a Gator, but
Mary DK.
Yeah. I'm not going to chase that. Those are the last 2 of the last options that I have on the list. So I haven't written it yet, so I haven't done all the research, but here's the list that I have so far, which is Darnell Mooney, number 1, Juwan Jennings, number 2, Josh Downs, number 3, and Troy Franklin, number 4. And the reason I have Mooney number 1, they get the Dolphins this week. He did play well in the loss against San Francisco. We know what the upside is there. 41% roster. To me, he's an easy guy to go get and see what he has left. Juwan Jennings would be mostly if Brock Purdy does return. He's now under the threshold of what we talk about. So I'd like to see what's available there, or from a production standpoint. Downs missed the game with a concussion. Remember, we were talking about him last week. Last week, for me, he was number 2. Or no, I'm sorry. For me, it was number 3 last week. This was Dave's number 1 receiver to add last week was Josh Downs. So the way Daniel Jones is playing right now, I think you want to, check in on Downs, missed the game with a concussion. And then Troy Franklin, he gets the Cowboys. This because I don't know if this will be a shootout, but, receivers have obviously done well against this defense. And this is somebody I think you want to keep an eye on. So I put Troy Franklin as 4th on the list.
All right. And finally, tight ends, Oronde Gadsden and?
Yeah, it's Gadsden number 1. And then it's kind of a mixed bag after that. So Juwan Johnson played well last week. Who knows what he has moving forward. I think just in the case of what you want to see from him, could be somebody that, bounces back and starts to play at a high level. I know it's going to make a lot of people gross, but Mason Taylor's 3rd. Gets the Bengals this week.
Oh, yeah.
But we thought he'd do well against the Panthers, too. So it's hard to say with any certainty that he's going to be good. But I do think if Tyrod Taylor starts, that's probably benefit them.
I completely agree. I mean, that was such a pathetic performance. But he played He played, I think, 95% of the snaps. Oh, actually, wait, no, that was from last week. He played a ton of the snaps again. Yeah, I would buy into that. Yeah, is Harold Fannin still available or no?
No, he is at 72%. So he's in the shallow league guys. The shallow league guys are more interesting to me than obviously everybody aside from Gadsden. So you have Kincaid at 82%. If he plays, I think you're starting him, especially with the matchup against Carolina. TJ Hawkinson has been 9.8 PPR points or more in each of his last 2 games, 6 catches each of those 2 games. So he gets the tough matchup against the Chargers, but still worth looking into. Fannin's at 72%. I'd run right back to him, especially when the Njoku list is day-to-day based on what Kevin Stefanski said. You have Lamar Jackson returning this week, so Mark Andrews back in the fold as someone to keep an eye on there, 72%. And then Kyle Pitts, despite the fact that Mooney returned, he still had a huge game against the 49ers. And I think you want to look at him, obviously, against the Dolphins as well.
Okay. Yeah, Mason Taylor played 93% of the snaps. So he continues to play all the time. All right, DSTs to stream and then some kickers.
My number 1 DST is available in 42% of leagues, excuse me. Can you guess?
Who is, let's see. Give me 1 second. The Buccaneers?
No, they're third.
The Colts.
The Colts, 58% rostered. Taking on the Titans. I mean, can't get any easier than that.
No. It is as easy as catching a fumble and running it into the end zone from Cam Ward. Who's second? So it's the Colts, then who? Then the Bucs.
There is a quarterback facing a defense that has thrown 6 interceptions in his last 2 games.
Who is it? Oh, the Falcons. Oh, the Falcons, right?
Yep, Falcons. They're 30% rostered, and then the Bucs are 25% rostered, taking on Saints.
The Falcons are a really good defense too.
Yep.
Okay. Kickers.
Kickers would be Matt Prater. Doesn't look like Tyler Bass going to return coming off their bye week. Evan McPherson. He gets the Jets at home, and then Jake Moody. Talk about a resurrection. He may not be the starting kicker for the Bears, but he's actually done a nice job the last 2 weeks. 14 fantasy points last week for them against the Saints, and he gets Baltimore in what could be a fun game if Jackson is back.
Okay. Man, I'm just checking roster percentage. What is Eddie Piñeiro's roster percentage?
77%. First guy I looked at.
Guy is amazing. Guess you get the kicker on the Giants. He's really good. All right.
I saw there's like an old wrestling video, not old, but like a 90s wrestling video where like there's a bunch of guys run into a locker room and beat up one of their, I think it was like a team thing. They beat up their teammate, and it was I think the NFL memes site did it. The Giants running into, how do you say his name? Macatamy?
I don't even remember.
Jude.
Academy. Yeah. I feel bad for him. He must feel awful.
Yeah. You wonder if Gano's on IR or he's.
Yeah, he's on IR.
Okay. Did they sign Young Choi Koo?
No, they went with this Macadamy or whatever over Young Wei Koo. I don't know. They may have signed both. One's on the practice squad. I should know, but I don't. But doesn't matter now, does it? It matters for the Broncos. It was good for them. All right. That's Jamie. I'm Adam. We'll talk to you with Dave tomorrow. We'll go through all the waiver wire guys and tell you who you should get excited for on Fantasy Football Today. See ya.